guess what we need to do now is...
Go to the pub?
But you weren't drinking.
All right, Sprite police, keep your hair on. I can go to the pub and have a soft one. It's not like I'm going to try and score heroin out the jukebox.
Right, I'll go first. Get the drinks in. Usual, everyone?
Yeah, it's not very usual for you to put your hand in your pocket.
You're on fire today, Sal.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I lose myself and nag your wife. Getting the ability to do this.
You asked for that.
I did not.
Hello and welcome to episode 136 of the Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that still isn't sure if Sally's hat this week was a pie or a flan, and has even seen commentary online that it was a quiche. I'm Gavin.
And I'm sitting in a bathtub. And a bunch of pillows. It is a little weird.
It's like I'm doing this podcast with a ghost. Because I'm looking at your chair and it's empty.
Woo! I am a ghost. I am the ghost of Ted Danson's character from Three Men and a Little Lady.
Oh no.
No, 3 Men and a Baby.
Yeah, that would have been funny if you were the right first time, but never mind. How are you doing?
Well, I've been better.
Yeah, I guess.
But, you know, it is what it is, you know. Dad's sort of recovering in some aspects, and other aspects are, you know, slow going, but he is still among us.
Right.
So that's, you know, that's good. That's a positive.
Yeah, and he's getting looked after, and he's not having to look after other people at the moment, so it's all just about him getting better, which is
right.
Which is important. So you're in Florida.
Absolutely.
And in a different time zone.
Yes. I'm in Florida in a different time zone. It's like a whole new world down here.
Because it'll be warm, I guess, right?
Warmer.
Yeah, it's fucking freezing here. It's really cold.
It's like in the 50s, 60s range for the most part, but it's really windy and gray and stuff for the most part. Like yesterday morning when I woke up and went outside, the artificial plants that decorate my little porch on my little cabin had blown over. So, news at 11.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to make Florida news. I think other things have happened this week that might take a little bit of
precedence
over that.
Yes.
Yeah. The interesting thing that's happened this week is that we've got more Twitter followers than Donald Trump at the moment.
Well, everyone has more Twitter followers than Donald Trump.
That'll be the joke then.
Because Donald Trump is no longer on Twitter.
Right.
It's so nice. It's so nice to say that out loud. Donald Trump is no longer on Twitter. He has lost his precious.
I didn't really read him an awful lot anyway, so I'm not going to miss it. But.
No, I had him blocked already, so it doesn't matter too much. Wind is a big deal down here, though, because the main bridge between where I'm at and Pensacola, where my dad is at, blew out in Hurricane Sally. So a 15-minute drive is now a half-hour drive, which is fine.
There's no plans to fix it?
I'm hoping they're going to fix it, but, you know, it's a long bridge. It'll take a while. So, and you can still see, you know, some houses and some businesses and churches and stuff that still have tarps on their roofs from the hurricane this year. You know, hurricanes didn't really make the news very often this year because for some reason there was other stuff going on.
I wonder why weather didn't make it.
But anyway, we're not here to talk about hurricanes.
No,
we're here to...
So strange. I got a message from Chris, yes, that one, who had listened to the podcast and heard that you know, that we were in strange circumstances again, and offered his services like before to fill your seat. And that would have been, I think, less weird than this. Because normally
Really?
you're here. Yeah, because normally you're here. And normally you're, I don't know, I knew this was going to be strange. It is strange. Have you managed to watch Coronation Street, though? That's the main thing.
Yes. Of course. I sit in my little bed when I get home, and I watch Coronation Street. It's the only thing I've watched this week, except for a little bit of basketball. My dad can now watch TV, so we watched some basketball.
Right.
And some National Geographic show about life above the Arctic Circle.
Wow,
that's it.
That's a heady mix of
Yes.
of entertainment.
I didn't even know that the New Orleans Pelicans were a thing.
They've been a thing for a couple of years, I think.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's how much I've been following, the NBA.
Nobody
these
watches
days.
NBA, do they?
I don't know. I
Did
watched
your
it
dad
last
watch
night.
NBA?
Not normally, but I don't know. It seems to distract him a little bit, so that's good.
Well, the good news at this side is that nothing has burned down yet. Okay, touch wood. There we go.
And you've managed to do the laundry and not pull a Paddington?
Pull off Paddington. Is that a euphemism for something? Is that like going away to clear my head?
What happened when Paddington Bear did the laundry, Madeleine?
Oh,
in
everything
prison?
went pink. Yeah, no,
Yes.
we're fine with that.
How's the dog?
The dog's an asshole as usual. The dog now knows when I'm sitting in the office at work, when I stand up, I can hear him in the living room jump down from the couch and start running towards the office door because he knows I'm about to come out and I might be taking him for a walk. But I've been walking with Steve a little bit, a couple of times this week. He seems to be rather keen on walking with Dobby, which was... I don't know how I'd feel about walking with somebody else's dog, but he doesn't seem to bother.
Well, he's allergic, so he's just living vicariously.
Right. Shall we preamble then, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give us some of that Corey news.
I'm sure lots of things happened to people who star in Coronation Street this week, but I did not have a chance to research it. I apologize to any member of the cast and crew who may have won an award or been knighted this week, anyone who may have died, anyone who may have given birth, anyone who may have fallen ill with the COVID. I apologize, and we'll cover it next week.
But how are we supposed to keep track of what Lucy Fallon's up to? She's supposedly sailing around the country. How's that going? We don't know. There's no way of finding out.
I think that's done now.
Is it?
I think I don't think it's aired, but I think they're done recording it.
That'll be
I don't know.
fantastic. And now I can hit hindsight corner, and then this noise happens, but I don't have anything for hindsight corner.
A bloop, 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 bloop.
Another thing I have in the mailbag is just a thanks to all our listeners who got in touch over the past week to wish Helen and Helen's dad thoughts and prayers for his recovery. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much. That has actually really helped me to have everyone's support and to read all of those messages of support. So thank you. Please keep them coming.
Yep. And now, this.
I can hear it faintly. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
You're actually bang on. I should
I'm
point
a
out
pro.
that Helen can't hear the Sting music that I'm playing
I
through
could very faintly hear it.
Oh, you've probably heard it through my headphones
be
going through the
honest.
microphone.
Yeah.
That's probably how you heard it, because I thought that's kind of spookily accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So just enough time to talk about a chipped cat.
A kept cat.
Chipped cat.
Oh, is this when Steve had that cat?
Mm-hmm. This was
Steve and Tracy's cat that hasn't shown back up again?
basically, that's exactly what I've written. But this was really the start of the Oliver storyline, because Leanne's nose was put out of joint when Steve couldn't look after Oliver because he was getting
Right.
Tracy's cat chipped, and I don't think we've seen sight of that cat since. I was Gavin and
Didn't they maybe have to get rid of it because they discovered that somebody was allergic?
I can't remember.
And that's how they got rid of the cat?
No idea. I was Gavin and I couldn't make out what you were. It sounds like you were eating a cookie. I've no idea. You were, however, feeling better than last week, and we're back at the helm of all your community shite. It took us 3 minutes to mention all of our other podcasts. You somehow found someone else in town who collects dead presidents. It was Snowmageddon. It was Snowmageddon week. That was us under a weather warning, and we were waiting for the power to go out as we were recording, which didn't happen. That was a year ago.
Excellent.
Jade finally reveals her true intent while Fizzy's worst nightmares that don't involve Tyrone come true, and Shona remains in a coma for another week. Gemma and Chesney get some sleep in a fancy cottage while chaperones pretend to be them for a fresco suit, which results in Dev firing Ches twice in 24 hours. Roy has a listen to Aggie's backstory and pretends that he cares. Tim's dad insults Yasmin's lovely cardigan. Gail confirms that brainstem activity is a good thing. Daniel's beard is coming along. Paula bathes in her work clothes, apparently. Her moment of the week was Leanne's eye popping out of her head when she overhears that Tracy's now a lesbian. And her boring moment of the week was Daniel explaining to Bethany that he's too busy to go for a walk in the park. The year before that, like 2 years ago, our boring moment of the week was Daniel saying that he was going to get his head shaved and then didn't get his head shaved. And that was Coronation Street and the Talk of the Street this time last year and 2 years ago.
Oh, dear.
Oh, poor Daniel.
I remember that scene with Leanne. That was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I really wish they'd kind of kept Tracy bisexual. That was fun.
Shall we dive in, my dear?
Yes, please.
Our first storyline today is Gary in the Slammer. This was on Monday. Gary is in jail, sawing socks. Poor Gary's going to get his toes all cold. And later, Faye's on the bench when Craig sidles along and Faye wastes no time in getting stuck into him for nicking her brother. But not like that. Craig says he was only doing his job by sticking his nose where it wasn't wanted or needed when he saw Gary leave a house where his sister lived through the front door without anyone chasing him. Faye tells him to go arrest himself. Gary's innocent. Craig wants to know how she can be so sure, and she tells him to go play in traffic. Faye's back home as Maria gets home, and Maria explains that he's on remand, Gary that is. Faye's nerves are going, she's nearly blurted out the truth, and Maria's feeling the same way. She still wants the world to know that Gary's innocent and shouldn't be banged up. Faye starts worrying about Zach, Nizzy, and Anna, and the other one. Jake, I think. Yeah, Jake. All the family that her actions have taken from Gary. Maria thinks Gary's still doing the right thing in protecting her and urges Faye to speak with her brother before making any rash decisions.
Yes.
So in the prison, Gary thinks all things considered the two of them are probably sitting in the right seats. He tells her to keep to their story. Eventually the lies will start to feel like the truth. That was pretty bleak.
Yeah, it was.
Keep on lying.
It sounds like our U.S. political situation.
No, we don't do that. Just because there's been... Just because it's been a monumental week doesn't mean that we're doing that podcast.
Oh, okay, fine.
Although I guess
We might as well.
It'd be interesting to know what the thoughts on events have been in Florida compared with Michigan. I wonder.
You know, I haven't. The only thing I can say is that when I was visiting my stepmother, who's also in the hospital because there's nobody to take care of her at home, because she has the Alzheimer's, which I don't think I explained last week. One of the nurses, while it was happening, because I was there while it was happening, and that was just really bizarre.
You were at the hospital when it was happening.
Yeah. One of the nurses insisted, and I only caught it like briefly while walking out by rooms that had TVs on. One of the nurses insisted that it was Antifa, pretending to be Trumper people, and that she knew this because her boyfriend told her. Right,
because they were all wearing their Antifa t-shirts and were humming the Antifa theme tune.
Yes.
That's how you know.
Yeah. Yeah. While saying, stop the count and
right.
4 more years and all that stuff. Anyway, yeah, it's been disconcerting. There have been times I've walked into gas stations and stuff, and not only are there people inside the gas station not wearing masks, but like the guys behind the counter will not be wearing masks, and I'm like,
Oh, really?
that's bizarre. You know, so.
Wow.
But considering that I basically, the only 3 places I go is where I'm staying and one hospital and then another hospital,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I haven't really seen too much of an impact, except of course for the fact that there are so many COVID cases where I'm at right now that my dad had to be moved out of ICU and into the ER overflow because all of the ICU beds are now taken by COVID patients.
Right.
So,
But you're right, it might not be a representative snapshot.
no.
And you're in the panhandle,
Bleak and
which I
scary.
guess is different, but yeah, still scary enough.
Yes.
So, PC Tinker,
Anyway, Gary.
or PC Tinker, who sees
Oh, PC
Faye in
Tinker.
Roy's Rolls, and he wants to know how she's so sure that Gary is innocent. But once again, Faye storms out.
Yeah.
And then
Once again, she almost tells the truth, and then she storms out instead.
Yeah, she goes through a little phase of saying enough that gets his interest going as to how she can be so sure of something.
Mm-hmm.
And then she realises what she said is going to get her into trouble and get Gary into
Right.
trouble for lying, I guess, and has to storm off, which in itself is incredibly incriminating and just weird.
Absolutely.
So, later on the street, the two meet again and Faye apologises. Craig offers an ear if she needs it. Then along comes Kelly the Chin, who finds this very interesting. Kelly calls Gary a psycho who killed her dad. That's why he was sniffing around her months ago. She just thought that he was being a bit of a pedo, but it turns out that he was a murderer, and PC Tinker urges calm between the two ladies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's as far as we get with that this week. So there was this whole...
Well, except for something that comes in another storyline. Because there's one more time on Friday when Faye almost tells the truth.
Oh, yeah. But that's
Yeah.
kind of something else, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't really get all that far with that this week. In fact, nothing really much happens. Everything's kind of status quo. Gary's in jail, doesn't have any socks. You're eating yogurt?
No. Oatmeal.
Oatmeal, okay. And and yeah, it's not really been nudged that forward. All we really get is the out spot Macbeth type thing that's going on with Faye, who's eventually obviously going to blurt out that she was one what twatted Adam.
Right. Although I think she's going to confess to, she's going to blurt out about Ray Weinstein before she blurts out about Adam.
Right. One kind of leads into the other, doesn't it?
Right, yeah. She's got a lot to blurt out, doesn't she?
Mm-hmm. A whole lot of blurting going on.
Yeah. Or almost going on, and then not.
Right.
And then she'll probably blurt about Ray raping her first. Because that's going to save this. Because that's the thing that's going to save the
Go
street.
save the street and save the houses. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much... so that means that's why that's there in that storyline.
Yep.
Ugh.
Faye, savior of the street.
Because she got raped. Almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, no, she did. She
Did.
doesn't, but she doesn't think she did.
Right, yeah. Which is just the worst part of the storyline.
Right. Well,
Is the whole, I think, no, I let him on. It's all my fault. I hate that.
yeah. I think that's fine if it gets addressed. I think it's fine that she can think that, because that's not out with the realms of possibility that she's thinking about it wrong, but you'd want somebody to correct her once this information all comes out, to let her know that just because you don't think that this was really, really bad, it was. I don't know why she didn't mention the fact that, this is going back to last week though, that her job kind of depended on this.
Right.
Because that's a vital bit of information to it, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. And, you'd think, you would hope that Maria or Gary would be wise enough to say, no, wait a minute. He's your boss.
Right.
He has power over you. It's not on equal footing. This was not your fault.
Yeah, there's a power dynamic
Yeah.
that's incredibly important to the whole thing that isn't getting mentioned.
Absolutely.
So, on to our next storyline today, which, conveniently enough, is the Coronation Towers one. This was quite funny on Monday. Sally has set up a TV in the factory so that she, Abby and David, the latter two who don't work at the factory but are in the factory, can watch the proceedings from the development application thing. And this seemed to be a kind of theme across the whole street, was that everyone was in their little pockets with their video links to this stupid committee thing.
Right. It was hilarious. And everybody in every country in the world was like, oh, I've been there this past year.
Right.
This is hilarious. This is my life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Trying to get video connections. People are
Right.
stuck on mute. There was problems with the sound that I thought was going to be like a bigger thing than it turned out to be. That
Right.
everyone was having problems with it. But again, that was kind of true to life. For it not really being all that important, and for being there just because it replaces the fact that they would all be there. So they have to see this, but they can't all be there. So let's figure out a way of making this happen. And it's all by video
Right.
link, and that's the only reason it's there. So it's a kind of throwaway thing, but it amused me quite greatly seeing seeing Sally going through the HDMI options on the input on our big TV. That's what we want to see in Coronation Street, is people struggling with technology.
Absolutely.
Right. So Roy has been the one chosen to make a case against the development, which has peeved Abby somewhat, who thinks it should be her because she's gobby. Then Brian, who also doesn't work at the factory, comes in to say that Historic England has rejected the application for the brewery copper coil thing, so that's Roy's big ace card fucked. And then he fucks off to Speed Daal because Alia's set up a TV as well, but she has food. So David, he manages to sneak out. Well, they
think she has food.
Right, because Brian hasn't had breakfast. And David wants a cheesy naan samosa or something. I can't remember what it was. Meanwhile...
He wants something they don't have at the factory. He does not want a pair of knickers.
Right. He doesn't want to eat.
He chooses samosas over knickers. They don't make edible knickers at the factory.
Who knows?
That should be something that Nina suggests in the future. Edible panties.
After their success of their peephole bras from a few weeks ago, who knows what they're producing these days?
I know.
Meanwhile, Ray and Debbie are excited about the meeting, although Debbie is having a bit of a wobble because of last week's recommendation thing. She insists that she's the definition of business.
Sure.
Everything she touches turns to sold, so let's go and tear this fucking street down, she says. And then Ray comes in his pants a little bit. So Ray and Debbie...
And he is overly confident. Ray is overly confident. So he knows something is wrong.
Because the last that we saw of this was the recommendation that went against them. The guy that they tried to bribe would not be bribed, and...
Yeah, and he was all angry and upset.
So it came back against them. And he was all furtive looks to the camera in the shadows of his office, trying to think about a way to... Who can I pull in now? Because I've tried Dev and I've tried... And now he's managed to get another way to get into the development good books somehow.
Yes.
So they're late to the meeting, and the female adjudicator asks them to take a seat. Debbie makes
AKA Lisa Kudrow in a cameo role.
Right, so it was. Debbie makes a case for Weatherfield being a slum, a favela. Tim, who doesn't work at the factory but is watching the link at the factory, likens Debbie to Thatcher.
That was funny. I loved that.
That Thatcher. Just like Thatcher. I took a lot of joy from that. Fresh start and new beginnings, says Debbie. And it seems everyone who's watching this stream is having problems with the sound cutting out, as Roy makes his argument, which is largely based on an increase in traffic and a decrease in affordable housing. It wasn't the strongest argument. But it was an argument. I was expecting a little bit better from him.
Yeah. Well, I think because Historic England turned down their application, that kind of cut out most of his speech, I think.
Right.
So...
Then there's a break, and the decision is announced. And Lisa Kudrow has decided to grant the planning permission after all. Coronation Street is fucked. Abby is sure that
What's wrong with you, Phoebe?
Or maybe it's Ursula.
Oh,
it's evil Ursula.
That makes sense. Yes, that makes sense.
There's too many Friends references in this podcast. There's either that or there's not enough.
I was going to say, maybe there's not enough.
Abby is sure that Ray has someone in his back pocket.
Or he's in somebody else's back pocket, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge.
Pub, says Abby, and Sally thought that she wasn't drinking anymore. Abby calls her the Sprite police. And now Roy, who doesn't work at the factory, is at the factory. He thought that he'd done a decent job. Abby calls
He got there rather quickly, didn't he?
Yeah, and I'm not sure how he knew where they were.
Where's this government office at that they had this meeting? Is it just around the corner?
I think it was in the toilets of the billiard hall. That's probably where it was. So, Abby calls it a stitch-up, and then Sally gets a worrying call from David. Ray's done what, she said. He served them eviction notices. They have 2 weeks to GTF, so already, within minutes, within the time it takes for Roy to get from the development meeting back to the factory, that's how long it takes for Ray to get his eviction notices plastered on the doors of the houses in Coronation Street.
No, not even that. They were sent to the mail, so which makes it obvious that he knew that he's done something deceptive. They just, that should be proof enough. The fact that he mailed them.
They went through the door, but I don't think they were mailed.
Mm-hmm.
This is a peculiarity. Say it for me.
A peculiarity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Or a difference between the US and the UK, where there's nothing to stop you putting a letter through someone's letterbox.
Yes. Whereas in America, it's a federal offense.
Federal offense to fuck about with that sort of thing.
Yes.
So in the pub, Emma feels David's pain. She got the same letter. Maybe if she had 2 kids, a brain-damaged wife and a Gale, they'd be equal, says David. And David thinks that these letters are a bit prompt. Something fishy's going on. Sally wants to fight this. We're a community.
And a Gale.
Right. And it was a Gale.
Is that the name of the episode this week?
No.
Something and a Gale?
No. It's Sprite Police.
It's like when in the first Avengers movie when, Loki says that he has an army and Iron Man says, we have a Hulk. Right. So David is Iron Man, he says, we have a Gale. Gale is the Incredible Hulk.
It suggests that there's more than one Gale. Or there's the potential for more Gales. Oh, that would be a twist. So on the way home, Kev sees Debbie.
They've been cloning Gales.
Right.
That's why she's got that hair.
That's what Ray's been doing. Oh no. Back away from that.
Got a secret laboratory.
So Kev doesn't know who Debbie is anymore. It's your sister, Kev. Then Ray reveals how he's got David by the short and curlies thanks to the CCTV. He can either have his wife or he can have his house, but he can't have both. And Debbie, though, doesn't know why Ray has to ruffle so many feathers and pretend to be the alpha male. Ray says too many oiks have wound him up. So Abby goes to Tracy to explain the situation, and as they're chatting, she decides that someone needs to stop him. And Tracy looks at the photo of her mum on the sideboard, and everyone needs to get their Deirdre on. And I thought this was quite a pivotal moment of the whole story.
Yeah.
Because this feels like this is the first time that Tracy's really got involved in this.
Yeah.
There was a whole thing about Oliver and selling the cab office and that kind of thing that was the office storyline, the Oliver storyline rather, that kind of touched this. But she's not really been too involved in the whole, we're going to knock down the street and build a skyscraper. But getting Tracy involved, who's then looking at a picture of her mum, you thought, well, this is a secret weapon that the Rebel Alliance are looking for. This is the plans for the Death Star. Right.
And yet, we don't see Tracy again this week.
Nothing happened. Right.
No.
I was really excited by this.
I fully expected the very next episode to open with, Tracy and Abby scheming for,
Right, because Tracy's not had any real involvement in this, she's kind of off everybody's radar.
Yeah.
Nobody's expecting the Spanish Tracy to do anything about anything. So she can kind of go under the radar and and do some plotting and scheming. And I was saying to Timbot 4000 about it. And
Yes.
and he said,
Timbot 4000 says shit just got interesting.
that's what he was at with the whole Tracy thing. That shit has just got interesting.
Oh, okay.
And
I thought maybe he had said something about Tim's dad throwing shite at himself, which he really can't do anymore.
No.
No.
Timbot doesn't say that anymore.
Oh, okay.
That's a wee shame. That's really
We
bumming
have
me
to
out.
find somebody else to fling shite at themselves.
I'm just pleased that we've got Tim's mum.
Yes.
As we lose a Tim's dad, we gain a Tim's mum. That's what's
Right,
making me
which
happy.
is a fair trade.
Right.
A trade in our favor.
So David's at the Adam's office talking about the 5-year lease that he signed without reading. Adam spotted a clause that says David can be evicted so long as Ray provides alternate accommodation. Sally still finds it dodgy, but Adam reckons the letters could have been drafted in advance, and David reckons that he's fucked. So back at number 8, David is explaining this to Nick, and they're back and forth about who gets Gail once David is evicted, and David thinks it's Golden Ball's turn. Nick, though, has a lot in the air at the moment at Natasha's, what with Sam and everything. David is resigned that Gail will be left with him, and then he asks for some privacy, and then he heads upstairs.
Have a wank.
Thank you for completing that paragraph for me.
This is it.
So every time he goes upstairs now.
We get so much Gail humor this week.
Without
It's great.
Gail really been in it that much.
Right, yeah. You know, but David's right. It is Nick or Sarah's turn, although Sarah's still kind of living with David, although she's going to be moving back in with Adam.
Right.
So she's all set. It's just David and the rest of the family. They should all move in with Sarah and Adam. That's what should happen. David's been carrying everybody for years. It's time for somebody else to carry David.
I don't know where they'd really find a 8-bedroom house at such short notice.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's difficult.
Yes.
So Nick gives him the privacy that he's looking for and goes to see Ray and suddenly wants that deal that Ray offered last week. You can fucking whistle for it, says Ray. Find your own warehouse. Then Ray goes off to his hotel to meet the Madam Chairperson of the committee, Mrs. Phoebe Buffet, for a few drinks and probably his hole. And meanwhile, the Rebel Alliance are turning on each other in the pub while Emma practices her conversational Spanish. It's very wearing, says Sally. Poor Emma. Emma thinks...
And then Brian speaks, quite fluent Spanish, and Emma is confused.
Right, because all she's really been able to do is greetings and family, I think.
Yes.
Emma thinks it might be time to move on if she loses her flat and get another job in the salon as well. So Brian, as you said, orders un paquet de patatas fritas, queso e caboya? Cheese and onion. Mm-hmm. And someone somewhere is getting a backhander, says Sally. Abby calls for unity against Ray. It's time to fight back. So on Wednesday at the garage, Tyrone is furious that Kev sold the garage months ago and now he suspects that they'll have to go their separate ways. Kev seems to agree that they'll at least have to move out and find new premises. Abby calls them both lightweights and goes off to do something about it all.
What's funny is that the reason why Emma's trying to learn Spanish is because she's thinking that she might go and move in with her Uncle Andy, who she's never met before.
Right.
And has never met her.
Right.
But
and that
has
nobody
some
really speaks
connections
of.
with salons in Spain, apparently.
Right.
Or something.
It's very well connected that way.
Yeah, yeah. It was just nice to get a name check for Andy. We haven't had one of those in a while since Liz was on the phone with him that one time.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember that time that Liz was on a plane from the 1980s? I missed that. They haven't brought Liz back to get rid of her again yet.
No, they haven't. I don't know what's going on there.
I'd have thought that would have been done by now.
Yeah.
Oh well. So Abby speaks to Roy and Roy's Rolls, who points out that the fight isn't over just yet. There are still certain requirements that have to be satisfied before the granted permission can be issued. No building work can take place until the 106 application about their concerns has been satisfied or something. I wasn't really paying attention. Abby pretends to understand all of this. They have 6 weeks. Roy thinks they need to broadcast all of this somehow to the Rebel Alliance, and Abby has an idea. Mm-hmm. And then Seb and Alina are back.
Yes. Somehow.
They're moping about having to move and are about to go into Dev's when Tyrone warns them off, calling Dev a backstabbing prick on Ray Weinstein's side. And it's unclear if Seb and Alina know what he's talking about or pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Then Gail and Sally in a hat are chatting about Hale Barnes and its Chi-Chi restaurants. Roy encourages them to join in their anti-Ray forum, and then Abby comes round the corner in a massive 4x4 that's dragging a trailer playing Fortunate Son for some reason. And Abby
that's a protest song.
Is it?
Yeah. It's a protest song about the Vietnam War.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It ain't me. It ain't me.
Uh-huh.
Ain't no governor's son.
Oh, I didn't know that. I couldn't have sang that. I would have known that it ain't me, and then I would just had to mumble the rest of it.
Some men are born to raise the flag. Yeah, they're red, white, and blue. No, nothing. You just know the tune.
I know. Probably 1/8 of the chorus. I think that's it.
Do you know who sings it?
Oh, it's the Revival people.
Yes, Creedence Clearwater Revival.
That's it. The Revival people.
You got one word. The Revival people.
I was going to say Clarence Clemens, and I don't know what that is, but it's something else. Is it? That's the sax player from the E Street Band, I think, isn't it?
Maybe.
Who's dead?
Is that the one member of the E Street Band who's dead?
I don't know if it's the only member of the E Street Band that's dead, but yeah, the sax player died. The big man died a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not getting a revival. Not now. Not after they buried him.
That tends to happen.
Yeah.
Like on New Year's Eve. Well, actually, it was New Year's Day at that point when they were playing that version of "What a Wonderful World" by that Hawaiian singer. The kids were shocked that he was dead, and I was like, "Guys, he died like 10 years before you were born."
Right. Plus, look at him. Of course, he's dead. That's not very charitable, but
no, it's not. But that was one of the things that led to his death, was that he was like over 300 pounds.
Yep.
So.
And
but anyway.
So Abby hops on the bed of the trailer with a toty wee bullhorn that she's found from somewhere. She encourages other residents to join the Rebel Alliance.
It was a really small blowhorn.
It was a toy one.
Why is it so small? Couldn't you have gotten a big one? That's what she said.
Mm-hmm. And to save the street and shove the development plans up Ray Weinstein's arse.
Right.
Up his arse. Roy worries that this... an 800-mile difference of right up his arse. Roy worries that this isn't exactly effective protesting. Then Sally in a hat isn't convinced, but Gail doesn't turn down a chance to shout insults at sex pests. She's in, and with Gail being in, others join in too. So they drive about, and Abby is rabble-rousing while Roy is explaining the process of the Section 106 negotiation through his own reasonably sized bullhorn. Abby gives it tight to Dev too. Then Ray comes out of the bistro and isn't exactly quaking in his boots. He thought Pride got cancelled. Or is this Ray Pride? Yikes. Right. That doesn't sound too great when you read it out.
No.
Rape Pride?
Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't catch on with that. And yet, he says this while not a single homosexual member of the street is on that float. Right. And but they do have a dummy of Ray on there wearing a mask.
Yes, that was funny.
That was funny.
I wonder if it was the same mask that Barney the Rabbit was wearing a few weeks ago. So Abby starts a chant about Ray being a pedo or whatever, and he gets on his phone while Roy tries to calm the situation. David tries to sneak Gail away because he's promised to kind of cool it with Ray so that Shona stays out of trouble. But she's enjoying herself far too much. And then PC Tinker appears and tries to get the Rebel Alliance to disperse, but they have the right to assemble in free speech. He tells them they need council approval to play music in public. Abby tries to tell PC Tinker about Ray bribing council officials, but all PC Tinker wants is that fucking music shut off and for everyone to go home. And then he wants the toty bullhorn off Abby. And the Royal Abbey throws it at him, and it hits him in the boob, and Craig reacts like he's been shot, and Abby gets arrested for assault.
Right, by the other, yeah. So this is why the bullhorn is so small, because they knew that she was going to have to throw it at him, and they didn't want something big that was going to injure him and put him out of the show for a few weeks.
Right.
Like that time that he tripped on something and turned his ankle while he was jogging.
That's still causing him problems, apparently.
Yeah. See, this is why you shouldn't exercise. It will kill you.
But the bullhorn is so small that
I know.
It's smaller than one hand.
I know, and yet he falls to the ground as if he's been shot.
The only reason there's any weight in it at all is there's like one AA battery in it. That's the only reason it has any weight.
Yeah, I mean, the way she threw it, it wouldn't have hit him at all if it had been a big, heavy one. It would have landed like in front of him.
I expected it to hit him in the face or something, but it hit his boob, and he was like, "Oh!" Back into the left.
I'm hit.
Pray for me. So Tyrone,
I see a bright light.
Come to the light,
That's
PC
the sun,
Tinker.
Craig.
Right. That's the light reflecting off the tiny little bullhorn. So Tyrone tells Kev about Abby. Kev calls the Totobi bullhorn a megaphone, which is hilarious. Megaphone. Yeah. Debbie comes along to rub it in again. No matter what you think of me, she says, at least I'm not the one bind up again. But Abby's got out on a caution thanks to PC Tinker giving her a good word or whatever, and goes to tell Roy, who does not give a solitary fuck. She's incapable of listening to him, so what difference does it make, he says. She's diminished the cause with her vendetta. And Abby apologises. She was only doing what she thought was right, but you've made things worse, says Roy. Burn.
Has she? Has she really made things worse?
Well, when the mob turns violent, when the mob starts throwing miniaturized things like a small pipe at a police officer. I mean,
it really hasn't changed. It really hasn't changed anything, at all. It hasn't. People on the street are still mad at Ray.
Mm-hmm.
Ray hasn't, been caught up in any of this, but it's not like she broke a window and stole his podium.
Right, and then waved at the camera. Hiya.
Oh, nobody was wearing like a buffalo skull cap.
No, the guy with the podium though, it was that JT Miller guy, wasn't it? Was it JT Miller?
TJ Miller.
TJ Miller. That's what it looked like. And his hiya looked definitely like he's just about to shout insults at Jing Yang now. Dearie me.
We're making
Silicon Valley references.
That
nobody is going to get. JT Miller. TJ Miller. Yeah, that's what I meant.
TJ Miller.
TJ Maxx. So, Tim, Sally and Faye are walking back from the co-op as David is having problems unlocking his front door. Faye explains that she saw some guys changing the lock earlier, which doesn't really make any sense. But Ray Flaming Weinstein is going to be behind this, says David, and let's just see about this. So he goes round to the bistro to have it out with Ray. Ray thinks the maintenance team got their dates mixed up and he'll drop off the new keys as soon as possible. Plus, their new home will be available for viewing tomorrow. Then Ray tells Tim, who is there to expedite the plot, that the Hale Barnes development has been put on the back burner for a couple of years, so he and Sally will soon be homeless. Bye!
Right, yeah. And also, why would he have the locks changed on David's house anyway, if he's just going to knock it down? Wouldn't that be... Why would you pay to have locks changed? Why is he putting money into changing the locks to irritate David? But he's just going to knock the whole building down. It doesn't make any sense. Except to be a wind-up.
Timbot 4000 says this does not compute.
That is correct, Timbot 4000.
Right. Yeah,
who
you're right.
Kind of hear there.
It doesn't make any sense.
He just likes to wind people up because he's an asshole.
Right, because he said that they were due for replacement. But
Right.
yeah, if they're due for a replacement on Tuesday, but you're going to pull the place down on Wednesday, then maybe just let this one slide.
Right.
Meanwhile, Tyrone is in the Rovers and gets served by Johnny, who, in a different storyline, has already declared himself legally blind. He sits with Alina, who's looking for a new flat in the paper. She's stressed out because of that time she was human trafficked. Then Tyrone, perhaps out of sympathy, offers her a place to stay at his.
Yeah.
That
Which
was
is weird.
weird.
Yeah. Because do they have a relationship?
No, I didn't think so.
Are they friends?
I don't think they've spoken to each
Have
other.
they ever had a conversation together in their entire lives?
I didn't think so, but there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on this week.
Because, he's acting like, they're practically family. It was weird.
Right.
It was really weird. And a little creepy.
She's just had interaction with Seb and Eileen and then people in the factory. But we haven't really
Right.
seen very much of the interactions in the factory.
Right, because they have to limit how many people are in the factory at one time.
But if she's talking to, like, Sally, well, that's fair enough.
Right.
Sally knows who she is. Or maybe
Right,
it's through
because-
Fizz. It's maybe through Fizz.
No, because Fizz doesn't work at the factory anymore.
Doesn't she?
She works for Gary.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Is that your alarm
What's
or
the
my
timer
alarm?
for? That's your alarm.
I don't know where that's coming from. Oh, there it is. That's 9 o'clock. I was
8
sure
o'clock.
that was yours. That's 9 o'clock for me.
8 o'clock for me. Still in a bathtub.
So there's no reason for Ty to do this. And he felt like he was doing it to fill a silence. That she'd let this
Right.
kind of hang and then didn't say anything,
Right.
that she's having all this problem. And it reminds her of living with strangers and all that kind of thing. And then she just lets that
Right.
hang. And then he jumps in and says, well, come and stay at mine then, because me having to explain this to Fizz is worse than having an uncomfortable silence in a pub with somebody that I don't know.
Right, yeah. And that's the thing, because he says something about, well, I'm not a stranger, you can stay at mine. And it's like, but aren't you kind of a stranger?
Right.
How often do you guys interact? This doesn't make any sense.
Anyway, so back at home, Tim, Sally and Abby are talking about how they're losing their old house and then the new house as well. And Faye thinks this is her fault, but no one listens to her. Abby thinks the situation cannot be impossible. Surely someone out there can stop Ray Weinstein. And the camera lingers on Faye, who, for now, keeps her mouth shut.
Yeah.
Then on Friday,
And Tim asked her to go get him a beer.
Yeah.
It's like she's about ready to confess the whole thing. Well, somebody must know something. Oh, Faye, love, can you give me a beer?
Go get me some beer. So Abby catches up with David and Dev's. Oh, this is on Friday. She's not a customer. She's quick to point out he seems to be operating a one customer in, one customer out at a time rule. Let's see how long that lasts. And they talk
Right.
about David being forced to move, and Dev pipes up in support of Ray, although he lets it slip about Ray's unsuccessful attempt to bribe one of the planning guys. And this seems to give Abby the resolve to keep digging, and then she announces that she's off to the copy. Later, David and Shona get home and she is not in a good mood. She's inconsolable.
No.
Then Nick, who's there because David needs someone oblivious to the situation to talk to about it, he asks what's going on, and David says that the alternate accommodation is on a rough estate where David is known for pushing teenagers off their bikes.
Is it that, or is it the estate that Shona grew up in?
I think it's the
she
same
says,
estate.
Because she says, I can't go back there. I
Right.
can't go back there. They're going to kill me if I go back there.
I think when they talk about the estate, they're always talking about the same estate. The one
Okay.
rough part of town that's there for...
because she's like,
generate villains.
I can't go back there because of, the fact that she stitched up her son,
Right.
I think. Yeah. Which, how does she know that? Because she has brain damage.
So David goes to see Ray at the bistro, who basically tells him to suck it up. If he doesn't like the new house, find somewhere else, but he's still going to have to pay rent on it. And David calls him
Which
a
doesn't
crook.
make sense.
Yeah, well, he signed a lease saying that he's going to... This is the thing that's complicated about this, because he signed a lease for his own house and agreed to lease it for 5 years. But if the house is getting knocked down, new locks notwithstanding, then he gets alternative accommodation, but he still has to pay rent on that new accommodation to the same value that he paid for his old house. It seemed
Right, yeah, it should be an equivalent accommodation. And I don't think place on the janky estate is an equivalent accommodation.
right. It sounded like there's a legal way out of this that was it Adam didn't really
Right.
spot. So David calls him a crook, and Ray warns him that unless he plays along, things could turn very nasty for him and his family. And that's as far as we get with that this week. So Ray is definitely riling up as many people as he can,
Absolutely.
creating many an enemy. And if we hadn't
Yes.
just had a whodunit plot, I would have said this is prime fodder for a new whodunit plot for somebody who's going to do
Yeah.
in Ray.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe Faye will be successful this time.
I would like her to be a baddie. I don't know why. I think it would bring me joy. So yeah, so this did feel like we'd got somewhere where the demolition is a little bit more imminent. What have they got? They've got 2 weeks' notice. So what does that take us to? That takes us to still January, towards the end of January then, where everyone has to be moved out, sort of thing. So this
Right.
has to kind of come to a kind of conclusion fairly quickly, I would have thought. Because they're not going to knock down the houses. I don't know if
No.
anybody really does think that this is a possibility. This is
Right.
This is one of these kind of worst kinds of cliffhanger type stories where you know, unless they really are going to go balls deep in this and tear down half the street,
Right.
you'd think there's no chance of that happening.
No, absolutely not. Because it would change the whole dynamic of the show.
Right.
Half the people would leave. Some of whom have already, very publicly signed new contracts. So, yeah, it's one of those storylines that it's missing a lot of tension because it's not going to happen. But it's just trying to figure out how they're going to stop it. That is the tension.
It's
But
like,
it's going to be something.
it's like the idea of, well, nobody's going to kill Ned Stark in season 1 of Game of Thrones. That's never going to happen.
Right.
Holy shit, they just killed Ned Stark in Game of Thrones in season 1.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I guess there's a very, 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 very infinitesimal chance that this is going to happen. A very tiny chance that this is going to happen. But
They haven't hired George R. R. Martin to write these scripts.
No.
It's fine. It's fine.
Our next storyline today. All aboard Arthur! Exclamation point.
Yes.
On Monday, Evelyn is minding her own business by reading a book while at work, while Dev describes how Asha now hates him, and then he threatens to tell the burnt samosa story. Evelyn, with a sigh, finishes her book and remarks on a strange choice at the end. And then Dev sulks, so Evelyn asks him to tell the burnt samosa story, which we don't get to hear.
No. I know. I was disappointed in that too.
I want to hear this. Forget the rest of it. Just tell us what this burnt samosa story was all about. Because Dev went full Indian as he was beginning to tell it.
Right.
And then we don't hear. So this is the metaphor that we were looking for last week in this
Right.
book.
Yes. I kind of figured it out after we finished recording, when I stopped to think about it and read the plot of the book. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, love triangle, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay. I kind of understand why he gave her that book now. But then he explains it fully in the next story, in the next scene, right?
Well, soon, yeah.
Yeah.
So later, Evelyn goes into Roy's Rolls and Arthur's already there. There's a bit of awkwardness between them, and Evelyn insists that she wants to be on her own, like Greta Garbo never said apparently. So rather than
Yes.
explain why he suddenly reappeared into her life, Arthur leaves. And later it seems that if Evelyn wandered into the Rovers Ladies, Arthur would be there, because next she bumps into him coming out the florist with a bunch of blooms, and she gets stuck into him. She doesn't want flowers or romantic gestures from him, and she storms off. But what she doesn't see is that next to Arthur is standing the Undertaker, which is weird given that he's 6'10" and 309 pounds.
And he has his own theme music that plays whenever he enters a room.
That's all he hears is constantly that theme tune playing. It's like the Queen thinking that the world smells of paint because 6 feet in front of her there's someone always painting a railing or whatever. And later, Evelyn is in the Rovers when the Undertaker comes in a mood and explains about Arthur burying his wife today, and she gave him a mouthful of abuse that he didn't deserve. Arthur was all on his own, says the Undertaker. And then he pile drives Evelyn through a table.
And then throws a chair at her.
And Jerry Lawler on the side just loses his shit. Evelyn goes back into Roy's roles, accusing Roy of knowing about the funeral and saying nothing. He's supposed to be her friend. It was nothing to do with me, says Roy, and Arthur's supposed to be your friend, and he could use some friendship today. Well done, Roy. So finally...
Yeah, well, you're his friend too, Roy. Why aren't you, and you knew about this. So why aren't you supporting him? Roy, if that is your real name.
So finally, Evelyn and Arthur meet up at her place. He tells her, "Don't Stop Me Now" was the music that played as Beryl went through the curtain at the crematorium. Okay then, says Evelyn, and Arthur goes off to get some booze after the day that he's had. And when he gets back, they talk about the age of innocence. Arthur calls it tragic. The guy loses the love of his life and then bottles the second chance. There's your metaphor. Evelyn wants to know why Arthur never told her about Beryl, and he doesn't really answer and instead reveals that his plan is to go back to Canada. And as with all things like this, he's leaving tomorrow.
Right.
And he wants her to go with. All she needs is a passport. Meet me at the tram stop tomorrow at 3, he says. And then he leaves.
With a passport and a smile.
So...
yeah, all you need to emigrate to Canada is your passport.
Yep.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And... I don't know.
And he said something. He does say something about the dogs. That the dogs would be.
Well,
that Tyrone can take care of the dog until
they get settled.
Right, and then the dog goes through quarantine and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like she could be separated from Cerberus for that long.
But it's the idea that he turns up after what?
Right.
A couple of months or something, maybe a month.
Right.
He appears last week, gives her a book. They talk really properly for the first time. On Monday,
right,
where she finds out about Beryl and all that. He then says to her, "Move to Canada with me. If you're game, meet me at the tram stop tomorrow."
Right.
And then you leave because there's nothing more to talk about.
Right.
I've made the offer.
And he's just buried his wife.
Right.
She's not even, her ashes haven't even cooled. And he's already asking this other woman to move to Canada with him. What has he done with Beryl's ashes? That's what I want to know. Is he taking those with him too?
Who knows? Because he doesn't tell us anything.
Right, yeah. It's like, oh, well, she's dead now, so now we can move on. No. This is horrible.
It's horrible, and it's, I don't know.
Timbot 4000 says this does not compute.
That doesn't compute.
It's kind of
it does compute, but
yeah, because I mean, isn't this the plot of like every romantic story? Isn't this like Sleepless in Seattle?
I've never seen it.
Maybe on top of the Empire State Building at such and such a time on such and such a day. Even though we've never really met in public, face to face before, and have only been exchanging these letters because it's the 1980s and the internet hasn't been invented yet.
The 1980s. But it's a leap of faith that you think someone could probably make travelling.
Right.
I don't know. I've never seen the movie, so I'm assuming that they live in Seattle, or one of them lives in Seattle and has to meet the other one at the Empire State Building in New York. So it's a 3,000-mile trip where if it doesn't work out, you go, oh well, and then you go home. This is moving.
To be fair,
this is moving to Canada.
Right. To be fair, you did move to America for me.
It took more than one conversation and 24 hours notice, though.
That's true.
It wasn't like, well, meet me in Connecticut tomorrow. I was like, what? Because if it had been that, I might not have done it. So on Wednesday, in the morning, Evelyn is in Roy's rolls. Despite the ridiculous constraints on Arthur's offer, it seems that Evelyn is at least contemplating it and is snippy at Roy into the bargain. So she goes home and starts packing, and when Tyrone asks her what she's doing, she says that she's thinking about going to live in Canada. And he kind of laughs and then goes, "Oh, you've been serious?" She hasn't made up her mind, but she wants to have a case ready just in case. She does. Tyrone takes this new information on board rather quickly and thinks that she has to do what's right and what's going to make her happy. Don't let us stop you from doing that.
Right, but he's also obviously sad at the idea of her leaving.
Right.
Which is sweet.
So Arthur's waiting at the tram stop, and he's thrilled to see Evelyn, but disappointed to see that she hasn't packed.
Right.
So not only are you moving to Canada with 24 hours notice, you're allowed to bring one suitcase with you and one
overnight bag,
one purse, and that's it.
Yep.
She hasn't decided to move to another continent in the last 24 hours. He asked her what made up her mind other than the ridiculous time constraints, and she said it was Tyrone. He told her to be happy, which for her means staying in this godforsaken place with her dog. So Arthur fucks off and gets the 3 p.m. tram, direct service from Weatherfield North to Canada, buffet service in the rear. All aboard! Tyrone is quite happy to see that Evelyn hasn't left and says Arthur will get over it. Evelyn isn't so sure that she's that forgettable. Tyrone tries to say how much she means to him and the family, but he can't get it out, so to speak, and Evelyn tells him to make like a pair of curtains and pull himself together. So to close the narrative off, Evelyn goes to see Roy, apologises for being snippy earlier, and offers a place for him to join her on a walk, and he agrees, and then bores the tits off her with a story about donkey jackets.
Because she said not to talk about trains.
Right.
So he has to talk about something else boring. So this gives me hope that Eva Roy is still going to be a thing.
Well, the fact that she goes to Roy...
Eva Roy.
The fact that she goes to see Roy immediately.
Yeah.
Well, she sees Tyrone that she had to see, and then she goes to Roy. That's the first person outside her family that she goes to see afterwards to apologise for something.
To take a walk with him.
Yeah, she's apologising for something that she didn't need to apologise for. He's not looking for an apology there.
No.
But she wants to see him. And then you go away.
And then she wants to take a walk with him.
Right.
Yeah.
Bring Woody. No. It does kind of suggest that at the very least there's a very special friendship there.
Right.
But I'm kind of disappointed that that's Arthur out of it.
And he drops the mop immediately, because he's busy cleaning up Roy's rolls, and she says, "Put that mop down and take a walk with me," and he does it.
Right.
So yes, he enjoys her company as well.
Yeah, it doesn't.
This is good.
Doesn't wait to get asked twice.
No.
But Arthur
this
though.
Is good.
Arthur though.
Scrum. He fooled around on his sick and dying wife, and then she wasn't even cold yet, and is offering, is asking another woman to fuck off to Canada with him.
Yeah, the ashes were still smouldering a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
But this had such promise. I really enjoyed the two of them. I liked him as a character. I liked the fact that he got on with Roy, who, as far as you're concerned, is the other potential love interest. That the two of them had a little bromance thing going on.
Yeah,
separately within the triangle. Too. Yeah, so it was like,
because Roy needs more friends his own age.
Yeah. So
and he needs more man friends. All of his friends are women.
So that's why I'm kind of disappointed that Arthur came back and then went to Canada.
Because he and Ken aren't really friends. And Ken is the only person his age, really. Except for, Ken is really the only person close in age to Roy, and they're not friends.
All the men on the street, I think, treat Roy like he's a weirdo.
Right. Whereas all the women love him.
Right.
Because he is very lovable.
Did you know?
I don't know. Wasn't it Daniel who said he was the most moral person on the street, though? Wasn't that Daniel?
I can't remember.
It was a man.
That sounds vaguely familiar and something that...
Yeah.
Let me check the records for boring moment of the week to see if...
Stop.
To see if that...
No, because, his closest relationships are Nina, Carla...
Yep.
Shona...
Kathy?
Evelyn.
Evelyn. He has a. I don't really see very much with him and Alex, even whenever Alex is in
because
it.
we haven't seen Alex in so long.
No, but yeah, the male characters do seem to keep him arm's length a little bit,
Right.
more.
And
than,
even Aadi is kind of Roy's friend now, sort of, or she wants to be. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she seemed really upset that he was angry at her.
Upset at her, yeah.
God, that's a power that Roy has against more than one character. Nobody wants to have Roy upset at them.
Yeah, nobody wants to disappoint Roy because Roy is the most moral character on the show.
Nice.
Which is funny because that's not how he was written initially.
No, he was a creep.
Yeah. And now he's not.
Our next storyline today, Grace lands.
Ugh.
Grace.
Throw this whole shite out. Yeah, no. You know, can we please give the Bailey family a storyline that's not shite? Please. I hate this.
This gets several thousand marks out of 10, though, for the abruptness at which the storyline started.
Right.
Because on Monday, Michael leaves the house and Grace is just standing there.
Standing there. It's like she's even more creepy than she was before. It's like, all right, now that we know she's a creepy weirdo who pretends that one child is her child when it's not her child.
She's just
now
standing
we're just gonna
there.
let her freak. We're just gonna let her freak flag fly, and she's just gonna be weird all the time.
And then she doubles down on it by saying she just got out of prison. So you open your door, there's somebody standing there. I'm just out of prison.
Hiya.
She says she's selling dusters, but she's not really selling dusters.
No.
She wanted to say hello. He's unimpressed, and she twigs that Ed and Aggie don't know that she's pregnant. He takes her inside and seems to revert back to the Michael from October, November last year, where he frequently says that he doesn't know how he can trust anything that she says. His heart believes her regarding the fact that the baby's his. So his heart believes, but his head doesn't. Grace tells him to go with his heart. It's never been wrong. Apart from that one time with the whole Tiana thing.
Right.
When it turned out to be very wrong.
Yes.
So based on Michael's reaction, Grace agrees to a paternity test, which I didn't think you could get until the baby was born.
No, you can do a paternity test.
If Jerry Springer has taught me nothing else.
It's it's more invasive, obviously. But you have to get some of the amniotic fluid, I believe, because that will have some of the baby's DNA in it.
Huh. Then James comes home, so Grace is quickly ushered out the back.
Right, but not like that.
But not So the clinic or whatever, Michael wants the results sent direct to him, and he wants them fast-tracked even though it's over $1,000. He'll just stick it on his credit card, and I wondered if this was the start of another issues-based storyline of putting expedited paternity tests on credit. On Wednesday, Michael is overly keen on knowing if he had any mail delivered, and Aggie doesn't seem fussed, but James is very suspicious by this question.
No,
and later,
Aggie just wants him to pay the bills.
Right. Then later, Grace turns up on Michael's door again. She forgot to mention that it's her 20-week scan today, but Michael doesn't want to go until he's sure the jizz that was fired up Grace's hoo-ha came from his bobby. Grace understands this reasonable reservation. And then a bit later, he gets the envelope that he's been waiting for. And he turns up outside the hospital and sees Grace sitting on the bench. The baby...
Isn't it weird that he got that envelope the same day that the mail's already come and it wasn't there?
See, I remember there being a second service in the UK, but I don't know if it was a thing when I left, that you'd get your morning mail and then you'd get the afternoon mail. But I don't know if that was still a thing or not. Anyway. Or maybe Ray delivered it. Maybe Ray just popped it through the mailbox. So he sees Grace, the baby is his. She has a recording of the baby's heartbeat on their phone, which they both find incredible. Science, eh? And they walk back to the street chatting loudly about their child when Aggie comes round the corner. What did you just say?
They're oddly, amazed by this technology that has existed for, 50 years now, listening to the baby's heartbeat.
Not on your phone,
This isn't even,
That was my impression of the baby's heartbeat.
That was great.
It was really just me saying doof doof. What did you say? And Michael has to explain to her. Aggie asks if Grace is on the run. That was hilarious. Grace gets
Yeah, that was funny.
that Aggie hates her, but Aggie points out that actually, no, I don't hate you. You mean absolutely nothing to me. Apathy being the opposite of hate.
She got out of jail fairly quickly for,
It was fraud, wasn't
essentially kidnapping a baby and fraud.
Mm-hmm.
That was fairly quick.
Right. She's not falling for this pregnant shite, but Michael shows her the paperwork. Oh, pig's tits, says Aggie, and she leaves him to it. And later on her own, Aggie is wistfully looking at the old photographs of Tiana. Later, Michael has prepared a really bad speech about having his kid and Grace in his life, with or without Aggie's blessing. Aggie was shocked today and will never forgive Grace, but agrees that he has to be a father to the kid. Nothing is more important than a grandchild, so that means Grace can have fuck all to do with it, and she advises Michael to apply for custody. Michael fidgets as Aggie explains some home truths about Grace and her ability to raise a child.
Right. Yeah.
I can see Aggie's point, but that's never going to fly, is it?
No.
So on Friday...
No, he'd have to have, he'd have to, go to court and have her, seen by a psychiatrist who would sign off on her being incompetent. And that's going to be difficult to do, even with this whole, baby fraud thing that she's already pulled.
Mm-hmm.
If we've learned anything from what's her name being allowed to be a foster mother.
Toya,
yes, thank you.
So on Friday, Michael has slept in it and decided not to apply for sole custody after all. He wants his kid to have both parents in his life. It's really important to him. And he's also worried that if Grace finds out that he's applying for this, she'll do a runner again and then he'll never get to see the kid. Right. Ed thinks that these are both great points despite Aggie's glares and despite Aggie's extended routine of Grace's shortcomings. But Michael seems to have made up his mind. Later, he's having lunch with Grace, who was taken to life outside of prison. Very well, thank you very much. And he tells her that he wants to co-parent. She's thrilled by this, but doesn't think Aggie will be happy about it. Michael thinks that she'll come round, and Grace wants to get all this sorted and suggests a powwow right now. That's a right now powwow. And Grace says something to Michael about him being scared of his mum.
Yeah.
I think Grace is scared of his mum as well.
Right.
Although she stands up to her a little bit better than he does.
And, I think Michael is also a wee bit afraid of Grace because she's crazy.
Right. So they go to see Aggie. Grace says that she knows family is important to Aggie. Well, this baby is going to be her family. Grace wants to be a great mum with Michael by her side. Aggie explains that all she sees in Grace is danger. Grace promises that she's changed and wants a chance to prove it. Michael begs for Aggie's support, which Aggie eventually gives, telling Grace if she's a member of this family, then she has to start acting like it, which means disappearing for months on end and never having a decent storyline of her own. That's as far as we get with that.
Which seems to have worked thus far. So.
Right.
Yeah. And, not showing up at all, because let's remember, the Baileys also have a daughter who still hasn't shown up.
Dee Dee.
Yes, Dee Dee. We still haven't met her.
I don't know if we're ever going to meet her. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but is she just going to be the Maris of this family? For she's only ever referred to.
Uncle Andy.
Right, she's only ever referred to. You never see her. Or she's always going to come.
Right, yeah.
Or she's always just left when we get there.
Right. Or she's just on the phone and you only hear one side of the conversation.
Because this has been more than a year where she's been mentioned and never appeared. Isn't she?
Right.
Isn't she in our neck of the woods? Isn't she over here?
In America?
America.
She might be.
That's what I thought. Are you Team Aggie or Team Grace on this? I think I know the answer to it.
I'm absolutely not Team Grace.
Right.
I don't know if I'm Team Aggie either, though. I think...
Is this everybody sucks here?
I think it may be an everybody sucks here, or no assholes here. I think it may be an NAH more than an ESH. Because... I can see Aggie's point, but I think, trying to push, because she did the same thing with the whole Tiana thing, which if Michael had followed that advice, it would have come out much sooner that Tiana wasn't wasn't his and wasn't Grace's. If he had gotten a lawyer from the very beginning, we wouldn't have had that storyline. So her advice is sound, but I don't think it's what Michael wants to hear right now. I think he wants his mom to be supportive of his choices, and I think her saying, no, you have to do this, and the way that she's doing it is just going to make him double down on doing the exact opposite.
Yeah, I agree.
I think her approach is off, you know.
But this does set up a kind of ongoing conflict between the two of them that might bring some entertainment, I guess. Because they're never going to get on, because they're far too different. And despite Aggie's words, she's just never going to trust Grace again. Nor should she. No, should she? Do you think Grace is actually going to have this baby? At this point, yeah.
Do you think it's going to be like a Maria situation?
No.
No, because Maria wasn't even really showing, whereas Grace is actually showing.
She's starting to show now, yep.
Very quickly.
Right. I think time-wise, well, it's 20 weeks.
Yeah.
She had the scan 20 weeks, so she's halfway there. So this is,
Whoa!
we're looking for
Living on a prayer.
we're looking for an April birth here.
Yeah. A
All going
springtime
well.
baby.
Springtime.
It is.
Moving on. Our next story is, I enjoyed this one for wrong reasons, I think. Johnny on the inside. On Wednesday, Johnny is still worried about his sentencing tomorrow. This is his last day of freedom, and Jenny tells him to enjoy it then. In comes Carla, and Johnny immediately leaves. Jenny has her hopes on
Squinting all the way.
Yes. I don't know why he leaves in a hurry. Why does he leave in a hurry? Just so that Carla doesn't
because he
realise
just
that he's
doesn't want to.
squinting?
Yeah, he doesn't want. He doesn't want to hear the two of them bickering over him.
Right. Jenny has her hopes on a suspended sentence, but Carla points out that Johnny really wants punished and wants to get sent down proper for it.
Right.
Carla,
for a crime that happened 40 years ago.
Yep. Carla catches up with Johnny again, who basically...
Are there no statutes of limitations in the UK?
Not when it comes to hitting security guards with cars.
Right, but not injuring them enough to kill them.
Right. Forcing security guards down a life of alcoholism. Yeah, there's no statutes of limitation on that, I don't think. I'd have to check. Carla catches up with Johnny again, who basically confirms Carla's suspicions. He wants sent down. Carla tells him not to push Jenny away. Then in comes Jenny. She's written Johnny a letter with her feelings. Ugh. She asks him to read it, but he can't because he's a bit blind at the minute. Jenny goes to run this by Imran, the fact that Johnny has lost his sight, not anything to do with the letter. But it doesn't make any difference. He'll still be in court on the morrow, apparently Imran has said.
Yeah.
So it's Friday and it's a day of the hearing and Jenny's doing some colouring in. Down comes Johnny, whose blindness, he says,
but I like that,
has improved overnight, but he's unable to pass her a yellow crayon.
I don't even know what that means.
No, nor do I. That's why I just kept talking. Jenny wants to see what the MS nurse has to say about this and his attendance at court. And later, Carla and Jenny are discussing Johnny's eyes in the trial and the likelihood of a custodial sentence. And then comes Daisy from somewhere, who claims to have been mistaken for Kendall Jenner. Carla says that even Mary could be mistaken for Kendall Jenner in a mask.
Why would you brag about this?
Was it Kendall Jenner?
Yeah.
It was one of the Jenners.
Yeah, it was Kendall.
Was it?
But still, why would you brag? Why would this be something to brag about?
Carla does not like Daisy.
No.
I'm enjoying that, because I'm not sure I like Daisy either.
No. Well, Daisy keeps slagging off Johnny, and that's why Carla doesn't like her.
Right. So the MS nurse has arrived and thinks that he might be having a relapse and can arrange for an appointment with a specialist in a couple of weeks. Jenny is outraged that nothing can happen sooner, and this won't postpone the court appearance. In fact, the nurse goes as far to say that there is no reason why Johnny can't attend the court. Johnny seems fine with this and goes to get ready, suggesting that Jenny sticks to colouring in. Then Imran,
but not like that.
Then, again, I'm not sure what that means. Then Imran comes... Oh, well, I guess if you're... Yeah, okay. Then Imran comes to get Johnny, and he tries to make it clear to Jenny that in all likelihood her husband is going to have chili con carne without rice. I mean...
Timbot 4000 says who eats chili con carne without rice.
No, sorry, it was my mistake. I didn't mean to say that. I mean, is going to go to prison, blind or not. Imran leaves and Jenny tells Johnny what was in the letter. She loves him. Belter. Johnny goes off, and then Jenny writes a spoken letter to God in the form of a prayer, asking that Johnny doesn't go to prison for running over Grant the security guard all those years ago. Thanks for making it to the end of another prayer. We will be back next week with more Jenny prayers. In court, Imran makes a plea that's about 65% as good as anything he said in defence of Yasmin. Johnny's pled guilty, he's lost a son, he runs a business, he has MS, go easy on him.
Right.
This
happened 40 years ago.
Right.
He didn't force a bottle in the guy's hands.
Right.
He's not the one who beat the crap out of the guy.
Mm-hmm.
He just drove a car.
Badly. The judge, though, has woken up in a bit of a grump and sends Johnny down for 8 months. Jenny cries and bawls and shouts that she'll visit as soon as she can, but Johnny, as he's been led away, tells her not to bother.
Yeah.
Jenny is still crying, borderline hysterical when she gets back to the Rovers. Imran stays briefly to tell him that they were lucky that he only got 8 months and that he did his best. And then he feels uncomfortable about Jenny crying, so he leaves.
Yeah.
Then Daisy pops her head round the corner to say that 8 months is just like a long holiday, but there's no consoling Jenny.
Yeah. Well, while wearing a polka dot sweater with a striped skirt. That bothered me so much.
I didn't know.
She's wearing two patterns. She's wearing two patterns. Two conflicting patterns.
What would Leviticus have to say about that? Did Johnny?
Good, I assure you.
Does Johnny really mean that he didn't want to see her? Asks Jenny. And Carl insists not. But then Daisy sticks her head round the corner again to remind Jenny that not so long ago Johnny wanted a divorce. Daisy says Jenny needs family, and that's her, and she offers to move in. And between them, Carl and Jenny tell Daisy that she has her own life somewhere, and she should just stick to that, although Jenny thinks it's a kind offer. Daisy flashes a 2-second smile fade at Carla, and then goes back to throw a drunken dev out of the pub. Jenny thinks they might hire Daisy after all.
Right.
And then we see Johnny in prison in his cell with his loo roll and his toiletries, and he breaks the first rule of Shawshank by crying, but he manages to pull himself together quite quickly.
Yes.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Does he have his socks?
I didn't see his socks.
Does he have bare feet too?
I don't think we saw his feet. And all the while I'm thinking this is such a bullshit story about this stupid fucking Scott thing that happened.
Right.
And none
40
of this is...
years ago!
This whole thing from the summer with Scott being there and wanting to do this other job and Johnny getting pulled into it and falling over and not doing the job and playing the Pulp Fiction music and all that sort of stuff has just culminated in this. If Johnny wanted to leave the show for a wee while, this is how we're going to do it. Oh my God.
I don't know. It's so... And like the judge is like, well, I understand these things, but what you did was so horrible and heinous that I just cannot ignore it. And it's like he clipped a guy with his car 40 years ago.
Right.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. That's all he did. He clipped a guy with his car. He didn't steal the money. They got the guy who stole the money. He's already served his time for that. He didn't beat the guy up, which supposedly happened as well. And Scott did it. Although, I guess after Johnny drove away, Scott beat the crap out of the guy. Johnny didn't do that.
No.
All he did was clip the guy with his car. I wanted to hear what the other lawyer was going to say about why Johnny should be sent down for this. Yeah. Because it doesn't make sense.
And I wanted to see...
It doesn't make sense. Hit Timbot's button.
No.
Hit Timbot's button.
Timbot 4000 says this does not compute.
Fucking right, it does not compute.
I wanted Grant, the security guard's mum, to be there as well. To get the justice that she's been looking for all these years.
I know. She doesn't even get that satisfaction.
It didn't happen. Oh my God. And considering that Jenny ran over Liz with, I guess, more force and venom than Johnny did with Grant, the security guard, 40 years ago.
Right. She didn't get sent down for 8 months for that. The guy who hit Daniel with his car. Who hit Daniel with his car? Oh, was that Kathy? As he hit Daniel with her car? Who hit Daniel?
Kathy's hit someone. And then Craig got reversed into by someone, didn't he?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Defending Bethany.
And then, the hit and run guy with Gary, I guess. Maybe that was Johnny that hit Gary. I don't know. The whole thing is just... It's just
ridiculous.
It's giving me some chuckles, but none of it really stands up to any kind of scrutiny.
No, you cannot be sent down because somebody became an alcoholic after you clipped them with your car.
Our penultimate storyline today. Asha's latest storyline, devastation pending. On Friday, it's the day of their mock results. Do you know what mock results are?
No.
It's like the preliminary exam that you have before your main exam. So they do it
okay,
like a couple of months before to make sure that
so it's kind of like a progress report. It would be kind of like a progress report in America.
Yeah, I think it probably has a little bit more weight to that. If you do really well in your prelims, but you fuck up the main exam because you're so nervous about it, you can appeal, and based on your prelim results, you may get bumped up a grade or two. So it could turn a pass to a fail to a pass if you do.
Oh,
if
interesting.
you do really well in your prelims, or mocks as they're called in England.
Or according to somebody in the storyline, it could keep you out of college and from getting a good job 5 years down the line.
Yeah.
Apparently.
So Aadi is quite optimistic about his chances. Asha insists similar, but her nervousness is somehow interpreted by both of them, both Aadi and Dev, as smugness. Dev thinks that she always passes everything and says that they're both clever in different ways, which Aadi takes as an insult and a suggestion that Dev thinks that he's failed, which I think he's got a point.
Which makes me think that maybe I shouldn't be saying that to Benny and Stelly quite so often.
No, don't say that.
that they're intelligent in two different ways.
Right.
I always thought that was a compliment.
Yeah. I think
I guess not.
You have to hear it from their point of view, I guess. In Speed Daal, the two of them open the results. Aadi goes first and is thrilled by the random numbers that he reads out. And next, it's Asha's turn. Her results are so bad that she doesn't read them out and instead goes to the toilet. Aadi is surprised because she said that the exams were easy.
Right, and ITV Corey looks on smugly.
Right. Yeah, he's
there.
Well,
also eyeing up Kelly from another storyline.
Mm-hmm. It's like you're reading my paragraphs here. ITV Corey is there and says that she's been focusing on more physical skills recently.
If you know what I mean.
But still, ITV Corey can't help a few wee longing looks at Kelly the Chin, who's there in a different storyline. Asha and Aadi head home to face the music / praise from Dev. So in the shop, Dev is very happy with Aadi and very proud of him. Asha's is a different story. What happened? Why didn't she say something to him? And he asks if Aadi knew about this, which he says that he didn't.
Right. Why is he blaming Aadi for Asha's bad grades?
It gets worse.
That poor kid.
It gets worse.
I know.
After pounding the kids with the importance of education for years, Dev suddenly changes his tune. She doesn't have to go to uni to be a success, and she doesn't have to work in a kebab shop for the rest of her life. He seems to attempt to reward her with a takeaway, but she'd rather go see ITV Corey, so she leaves. And after she's gone, Dev says to Aadi, "How are we going to fix this?" And Aadi's like, "What do I have to do with any of this?"
Right. Where's my takeaway, Dad? Where's mine?
He seems to think that Aadi's responsible for this, or at least responsible for trying to fix it.
Right.
And Aadi's like, well, look at my results again.
Hold on a second. I pulled my grades up. Aren't you proud of me?
Mm-hmm.
It's that whole thing with his soccer thing all over again, where he won, where he got a trophy or something, and Dev didn't care because Asha wants to go on the pill.
Right.
That poor kid.
Now surely
he can't do wrong for doing right, or right for doing wrong.
No good deed goes unpunished, or whatever.
No. Yeah, something like that.
So there's a kid that is a prime candidate for turning heel soon. The weight of Dev's disappointment, no matter what he does, is surely going to be explosive at some point in the very near future.
Yes.
How many more times can Dev let his son down by comparing him to his sister, regardless of what his sister is doing,
right,
rightly or wrongly?
Right. He's the he's the brother of the prodigal son, essentially.
Right.
You know?
Right.
He's there saying, wait a second, why are you killing the fatted calf for this asshole when I've been here doing right all this time? What's going on here?
I didn't know you could quote the Bible so perfectly. But yeah, I don't know. I really felt for Aadi, and I think it's also serving as a really good opportunity to get to know this new actor, even though he's been on the show for months. We haven't really seen a huge amount of him.
They keep experimenting with his hair, which I find interesting.
Right.
Whereas, every time we see ITV Corey, he seems to have less and less hair.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be bald with a paunch, with a beer belly here the next time we see him. He's becoming more and more unattractive, and I don't know if that's on purpose. To just make him more and more gross the longer this goes on.
Yeah, it's almost like the makeup's been told to make him look like a baddie.
Yeah.
Whereas there was a few moments where he seemed to be redeemed after Asha had her
had words.
Yep, and got her closure on the whole thing. That seemed to change him, and he seemed apologetic and genuinely so. But he's back to his old ways again. And I wonder where we're going with this, because this seems to have the makings of a start of another devastating Asha storyline.
Right.
And I'm like, this poor kid, why?
Yeah.
Leave
her alone. Leave her alone.
We've had the skin lightening, and we've had the sex video getting bandied round about the school and all that sort of stuff. So we've had two fairly major negative storylines for Asha. We haven't had anything that's positive, because the positive one has been usurped when she turned,
because she got back with ITV Corey.
Right, which she should never have done. That should never have happened unless there is more. There's more bad in her future, which just doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, and those glances at Kelly by ITV Corey, that's got to mean something.
Yeah.
Especially considering what happens with Kelly in her own storyline,
which we shall talk about right now. This is our final storyline of the day. This is Leanne en France.
Yes.
On Wednesday, Leanne is on the sofa, and the room's a bit of a mess. She gets a voicemail from Simon, who asks how she is and explains what's happening with Peter and Ken going off to Scotland. Leanne phones the medical centre and asks to have a word with the fabulous Dr. Gaddas, because it seems that everything's getting a little bit too much on top of Leanne now.
Right.
And she asks for something.
I find it very amusing that people go to Scotland to dry out.
Okay. I'm 100 days sober today. That's 100 days.
Yeah, It's pretty awesome.
So she asks Dr. Gaddas for something to help her sleep. Gaddas appreciates the situation, but wants to see Leanne face to face first. But Leanne doesn't want an appointment, she just wants the drugs, and she hangs up. And later, Dr. Gaddas meets Simon in the street. She asks after Leanne, and Simon says that she's fine and she's in France. Ho he ho he ho. And Gaddas is confused, and Simon wanders off when he hears some banging, but not like that. It's Kelly the Chin trying to break through a steel shutter with a hockey stick at the furniture thing. She calls it payback for Gary, and Simon manages to calm her with the threat of PC Tinker showing up. Leanne calls Simon back and pretends that she's in France by speaking in French and smelling of onions. The buzzer goes, and she pretends it's Eva, so she has to go. But it's not.
Shouting at Simon that his father smells of elderberries.
Right. Those are genuine insults, by the way.
Yes, and it genuinely means that you're a drunkard. So it works on that joke works on so many levels.
Your mother was a hamster and your father smelled of elderberries is saying that your mother is very loosely loose morals, and
she pops the babies out.
And your father is an alcoholic.
Yes.
That's brilliant.
Okay.
So anyway, the buzzer goes and she pretends it's Eva, so she has to go, but it's not Eva because she's not in France. It's Dr. Gaddas, and Leanne lets her in. And Gaddas is concerned about Leanne, while Leanne thinks that Gaddas gave her the brush off earlier, which didn't really happen. Leanne is so tired she needs to get some sleep. She feels like half a person. And Gaddas asks her how she's feeling in general, and Leanne explains about Nick and Sam and Simon. and Gaddas knows about the French lie, so Leanne has to say that she was only protecting Simon or something. So Gaddas writes her a prescription and tells her to come into the surgery tomorrow, and also it's time to tell everyone that you're not in France, it's time to come clean. And so she agrees.
Right.
So Simon and Kelly, after the whole banging thing, but not like that, go to Speed Daal, and they compare notes about being teenage and angsty. And Simon admits to spraying Adam's office, but it didn't make him feel any better. And then Leanne's on the couch, unable to sleep, and messily gets some pills from her prescription, spilling a few on the coffee table, and she washes them down and seems to go to sleep. And back at Speed Daal, Simon is now talking about his alky dad and how Peter almost burned down the flat once and nearly killed Simon. And Kelly the Chin realises that she has some ways to go to catch up to Simon in the Angsty teen stakes. But it's Kelly's curfew with her foster family, so she has to head off, but they agree to meet tomorrow. Then Simon calls his mum after getting a text from her saying that she loves him. Leanne is out for the count, so he leaves a nice wee message for her about how he reckons he'll be getting his hole pretty soon here. And on Friday, in the factory, Nick tries calling Leanne, but she's still passed out on the couch in an impossible position. Her head seemed to be hanging off the edge of the couch. It didn't look comfortable at all.
No.
He quizzes Toya, who insists that she was fine the last time that they spoke, and he shouldn't worry, because this is all why that he has all those frown lines. And Nick's like, you're supposed to say what frown lines? But no, you really do have frown lines. She went to France for a change of scenery. Then they compare notes about how wonderful the time was with Sam and Mason. And Simon is in Roy's roles in one of his two shirts.
Because your actual son and a foster child that you had for 24 hours are absolutely the same thing.
Right. Simon is in Roy's roles in one of his two shirts. Nina thinks he's looking swish, but then Shona comes in, who tells him that he's reeking of aftershave, and that shirt makes him look like a waiter. His only other shirt is at Leanne's, so he's instructed to go and get it and have a shower while he's at it.
Yes.
On the way, he grabs a bunch of flowers, and then he bumps into Nick, who reiterates the importance of a shower because he really, really is stinking. Nick seems to know who Kelly is, which surprised me. Nick asks about Leanne, who Simon has had a text from, and then he says that he's off to the flat to get changed. And Nick looks a little bit concerned here. So Simon gets to the flat for his shower and discovers Leanne still passed out with the pills scattered on the coffee table. "Mum," he shouts from 2 metres away. And she murmurs but doesn't wake up. Simon calls Nick and leaves a message, but because he isn't picking up, so then he calls an ambulance. And then Summer...
Which is what he should have done the first
time, right? Then Summer and Kelly the Chin are enjoying a girly wee chat about Kelly's upcoming date that isn't a date, that she hasn't made an effort for, that she's made an effort for. And they wander by the ambulance that's parked outside the flat. Because now
and are not curious about it at all.
Not one little bit. And now it's Leanne's turn to be in hospital. She's awake now, and she's looking awful. She's like so drawn and so drained, it looks like she hasn't slept in forever. And explains to Simon that she doesn't try to kill herself. She only took a couple of sleeping pills. And she never went to France after all. And while all this is going on, Kelly the Chin is at Speed Daal, starting to think that she's been stood up by Simon.
Yeah.
And Ash and Leanne has to face some tough questions from Simon about what he faced in the flat there, and she's sorry about it. She just wanted to be left alone. Everything that was happening with Mason and Sam was too much, and it made her angry, and then she hated being angry. The pain of her loss hasn't gone away, it's just got worse. So Summer sees Nick and Roy's roles, and the two of them seem to be on speaking terms as well. She explains...
Right, yeah.
Does everybody...
Somehow.
Nick has Summer's phone number, or whatever. She explains about the ambulance, so Nick tries to get hold of Simon, who is not answering his phone now. Outside, Summer and Nick run into Kelly, who confirms that Simon stood her up. Nick is surprised because he bought her flowers, and Summer thought Simon was better than that. Based on what?
None of the three of them remember the ambulance. You know?
Oh no, Summer did say to Nick in Roy's roles that there was an ambulance.
Right, yeah, but then afterwards, nobody puts two and two together, because Summer seems to put two and two together when she said, "Is Simon all right?" Because I saw an ambulance outside of Victoria Court. And so it crosses her mind that Simon might be hurt. But then when there's confirmation that Simon didn't show up somewhere where he was supposed to be, that he was really looking forward to, nobody says, "Oh dear,
right,
perhaps Simon really is hurt." No, they all immediately go to Simon stood Kelly up.
Right. Meanwhile, Simon and Leanne are back in the flat. Leanne sees the flowers, but Simon pretends that they were for Jenny, who was upset in a different storyline. Leanne doesn't want anyone to know she's there, and then has to dash into the bedroom as Nick comes in.
That was hilarious. Don't tell him I'm here.
Right.
Runs away.
So Nick sees Simon and the mess in the flat, and he obviously puts two and two together and what's going on here. Simon spins a story about staying there on and off, and then Nick spots the empty wine bottles and wonders if Simon's been drinking. Simon says it was only a couple. And then Nick quizzes him about Kelly the Chin and
From
how he...
each bottle.
Right. Then, yeah, each of these 15 bottles of wine that are here.
Right.
Then Nick quizzes him about Kelly the Chin and how he chickened out. Nick blames himself for not answering the phone to address Simon's wobbles and says that he's always there for him, apart from a few hours ago when he wasn't. Nick leaves, and then Leanne comes back out.
And that he can come to the factory even though he doesn't work at the factory and pull him out of meetings anytime.
Right. But not like that.
Yes.
Nick leaves, and then Leanne comes back out feeling bad because she didn't know that Simon had a date. Simon doesn't care. He's here to look after her. But then he looks kind of sad because he's probably not going to get his hole after all.
No.
Later, Leanne is asleep when Simon gets a call from Kelly the Chin. He pretends to be sick, which is why he didn't turn up, and that was a terrible ploy.
Yeah.
Just, no, don't do that. Explain what happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, and says that he was asleep, which is why he didn't call her. She doesn't believe him and refuses his offer to make it up to her. She tells him not to call again. Then Leanne stirs as Simon finishes making dinner. He wants to tell someone that she's there, like Nick or Toya, so he can go out and get his hole, but Leanne says no. All she needs is Simon. Pig's tits, says Simon. And that's how we end this week's episodes, which were dedicated to the loving memory of Adele Rose, 1933 to 2020. So Simon, I guess they put these little clauses in where Leanne is like, you can't tell anybody, nobody must know, and then Simon seems to apply this to Kelly the Chin, that he can't tell her why he didn't turn up, when that's not really what Leanne's talking about. What Leanne's talking about is don't tell Nick and don't tell Toya, basically.
Right. I suppose, considering, the friendly first name basis that Nick is on with Kelly and with Summer, that Simon is rightly afraid that Summer or Kelly might tell Nick the truth. But yeah,
that's about
and the way Summer's in the background saying no, he's making this up. The old Summer wouldn't do that. I don't know if I like this new Summer.
Yeah, she's been a little bit interfering, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Because Kelly doesn't seem like the sort of girl who needs any doesn't need her actions confirmed by anybody.
Right.
She kind of just makes up her own mind to batter down steel doors with hockey sticks and things like that. She's prepared to fly by her own power, I think.
Right.
Yeah. I quite like the idea of Simon and Kelly, though.
Yeah, me too. That I was really disappointed that didn't happen, because I think they would be a good match, because they both had shitty fathers.
Right. And they potentially could become a Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, yeah. There is that. They could be the spray painting, hockey stick hitting Bonnie and Clyde.
Right. Getting chased around Weatherfield by PC Tinker on his wee tricycle. PC Tinker turned up so many times this week.
And yet, none of them effectively.
Oops. I've started this wee thing where I'm just posting on Twitter, PC Tinker has a situation under control, where it's where I feel like it's PC Tinker's inner monologue, just trying to boost himself up a little bit. I've got this under control. PC Tinker has this under control. PC Tinker is aware of the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of fun out of that. But yeah, so I don't know, as far as the Leanne thing is concerned, it doesn't feel like this is improving any for her, but it hasn't been an awful long time. But I don't think shutting people out and pretending to be in France is really the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's gonna come out.
Yeah, it's got to.
Because and she promised Dr. Gaddas that she was going to come clean.
Right.
So Dr. Gaddas is gonna, say something to Nick or to Toya.
Oh, that's right.
Before
yeah.
Simon does.
She's going to be under the impression that there's no secrets to keep here.
Right, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to come out anyway. And all we've done is prevent Simon and Kelly from hooking up,
Right.
which is a couple I can stand behind.
Yeah, so far, I don't think we've seen much of Simon in a romantic capacity. In fact, the only time we really talked about his love life was when he announced that he couldn't be the father of Amy's baby because he was a virgin.
Right. Yes.
It seemed difficult to determine what was the main thrust of that storyline, whether it was the Simon and Kelly part or if it was the Leanne part or...
Right. If Kelly was just a foil used to get Simon to go change his shirt and to have to go into that. Because I
Right.
was wondering, how are they going to get Simon to go in there
Mm-hmm.
and find her?
And then the show nothing happens and you go, okay, this is how they're going to do it.
Right.
But you're right, it's like, I really, really hope not. I really hope that the Simon and Kelly thing wasn't just a foil to get Simon into the flat.
Yeah, and I'm also relieved that this means that they're not going to try to do a thing where Simon has romantic feelings for Shona. I'm relieved that's not actually going to happen.
Oh, God, yeah, because that looked like it was going to be a thing a few weeks ago.
I know, and I was
Yeesh.
like, oh, please don't do this.
Right. Well, that was the week that was Coronation Street.
It
and
was.
It had its
It
moments,
wasn't a
but
bad week.
It wasn't a great week.
There was a lot to laugh at. It was a good week because it gave me lots of things to laugh at in a week that I really needed stuff to laugh at.
right,
So
that's fair.
beyond, crazy people storming the Capitol building,
Mm-hmm.
looking like idiots,
Yes.
and Donald Trump getting his Twitter taken away permanently. Those are the things I laughed at this week.
Yeah.
So thank you, Coronation Street, for bringing a little joy into my life
Right.
when I desperately needed it.
Yep. Well, this feels like it's gone okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you're not here is obviously, it takes something, I think, from...
Right. And the fact that I'm sitting in a bathtub.
Right, because now I'm imagining you sitting in a bathtub. But
It's a nice bathtub. It's one of those big clawfoot ones.
Oh, very nice. But yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I think we've proved that the phone link thing works on this little machine.
Right.
You're on Facebook Messenger and you're not crystal clear, but I think you're good enough.
Yes.
Which is a great thing to say at the end of this.
Right.
Maybe it would have been better to say at the start when there was maybe other things that we could have explored, but no, I think it's been
Right.
good enough. What was your moment of the week?
Oh, gosh. I had something and now I can't remember what it was. Is it Tyrone and Evelyn? I'm saying you have to do what makes you happy, Nan. Well, at the same time, you can tell that he's heartbroken and it's written all over his face. Or Evelyn talking to Cerberus about it on the couch. That was really sweet. Or Roy and Evelyn going to take a walk at the end of that storyline this week.
The donkey jacket bit?
Yeah.
Well, what else are we skipping over then? Let's see. We have...
What was your idea for moment of the week?
I wasn't sure. I thought this was a difficult one to pick out. I try and write down things as they happen so we don't forget about them, but I don't have anything written down. The Gary stuff with Faye and Maria, I don't think there was really much in that.
No.
The Coronation Towers, there wasn't a really good moment
No.
in that, unless
Unless it's Aadi
Aadi's
hitting
throwing
DC Tinker with a bullhorn.
the tiniest bullhorn. Do you know, I think that might be my moment of the week. That was pretty funny because he looked like he'd been shot.
I don't know, but Tyrone was so lovely with his Nan. And when was the last time we gave it to Tyrone?
Blue Steel, not so long ago. Do you remember Blue Steel? Well, that was like a month ago. It wasn't anything to do with Michael and Grace, I don't think.
No, none of that storyline is worthy of anything.
Johnny. There were funny bits in it.
There were funny bits.
The bits that aren't meant to be funny, but... Is it Evelyn then? Evelyn and
yes,
Tyrone?
I think it's Evelyn and Tyrone.
Evelyn and Tyrone talking about
What makes you happy. Yeah, do what makes you happy, Nan.
That's our...
Moment of the week.
Moment of the week?
Your boring moment of the week.
Is it Michael staring at an envelope?
Nah.
Is it Jenny coloring?
Yes.
And explaining about how, Kathy has explained to her that adult coloring books are a thing now, even though they were a thing 3 years ago.
So that sounds like
supposed to relax you.
You say adult colouring, but cannot imagine you're colouring in a
It's like
Playboy,
suddenness.
right?
Right. It's not.
No.
Because, I remember I bought that Doctor Who coloring book for myself to do on the plane trip to the Caymans. And, I got halfway through one page and said, this is boring AF. And put it away and read that book about, a pandemic on a plane instead. What's the name of that book? You really like it. Oh, Station 11.
Station 11, my favourite book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the many good books about pandemics that should have warned us.
The reason why I really like that book, or one of the reasons why I really like that book, it's just written beautifully.
Yes.
But it's in the post-apocalyptic world after the pandemic, the thing that is bringing people together is art and theatre and creativity is what is holding people together. I really like that notion.
It is a nice notion.
And it was set kind of round about where we live.
Yes.
So, Jenny colouring is our
boring moment of the week.
See, I'm actually doing these things and you're talking over them. It's a real shame that you can't hear them.
No,
I'll
it's all right.
see if I can figure it out.
It's all right.
Shall we wrap this one up then?
That's part of the charm, is when we muck things up. Yes, please.
So if you, like P.T. Tinker, have ever urged a large group of women to calm down, let us know how long it took before someone...
A large group of women and Roy.
Let us know how long it took before someone punched you in your stupid face. We're the talk of the street at gmail.com, which is also our address on Skype for voicemail and on PayPal if you want to chuck a couple of bucks into our virtual tip jar. We're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Please check out our merch store and YouTube channel, links to which you can find on our Twitter bio or on the other stuff page of the talkofthestreet.podbean.com. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on your podcast provider of choice. Thanks for making it to the end of another episode, and we will be back next week with more Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.